Mr Speaker, thank you. This week we have seen yet another example of this government's failure to recognise that our economy and our well-being depend on a healthy environment. Now, the Honourable Nick Smith may have a lot of experience as the Minister of Conservation, but given his government's dig it, drill it, mine it, irrigate it agenda, which is its apology for an economic plan, the Minister seems to have conveniently forgotten what both he and the Department of Conservation are required to do by law, and that is to advocate for conservation and to preserve freshwater fish habitats. Mr Speaker, DOC has 8 functions in Section 6 of the Conservation Act, and one of them is, and I quote, to advocate for the conservation of natural and historic resources. Another of those 8 functions is to preserve, so far as is practicable, all Indigenous freshwater fisheries and protect recreational freshwater fisheries and freshwater fish habitats. Yet, what have we seen in the Hawke's Bay, in the Tukituki catchment, in relation to the Ruataniwha dam scheme? We have the Tukituki River, which is ranked as nationally significant for its native fish, where there are 8 of the 18 native fish species in that catchment which are at risk of extinction or their populations are declining. In terms of recreational fishing, NIWA has said that the Tukituki is one of the 2 most heavily fished rivers, apart with the possible exception of the Tongariro, in the North Island. It's the 6th most popular trout fishing river in New Zealand. It's highly valued by Hawke's Bay anglers because of its ease of access and because of the many opportunities there. So when DOC has a responsibility under the law for a river with these high values, then it should consider the effects of a dam scheme and a proposed regional plan on those values. And that's what the Department was doing in relation to the Tukituki catchment and the Hawke's Bay Regional Council's proposals for the Plan Change 6. Departmental staff put in quite a lot of time and effort to prepare a substantial 32-page submission setting out their concerns on the adequacy of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council's proposed water management regime and its approach to water quality. That submission expressed quite significant concern that the Council was only proposing to manage one nutrient, phosphorus, and that this was a new and untested approach in New Zealand, and that it wasn't enough to protect the values of the Tukituki and its tributaries, and, Mr Speaker, that it could lead to more algal blooms, which has been a major problem in that catchment in the low flows in summer. The Department also identified that the regime the Council was proposing, without controlling nitrogen, a key nutrient which leads to algal blooms, with the proposal that there be potentially a 300 to 500% increase in nitrogen levels compared to current levels, would have potentially unexpected ecological effects. So that submission went on and made a number of constructive recommendations that the Board of Inquiry, which is considering the issue, should seek further advice, seek an independent peer review. Yet somehow, despite all the work done on the submission, despite the evidence of the Tukituki's high values, despite the Department's statutory responsibilities, this submission wasn't lodged with the Board of Inquiry. How and why was that decision made? And, Mr Speaker, it is very troubling that we see such politicisation of departmental decision-making on such a major project which will affect the health of rivers and communities in the Hawke's Bay. And the Minister, Nick Smith, was talking nonsense yesterday when he said that the submission, because it was in his name, therefore the Department needed to be careful when making such submissions. The submission that was lodged was in the Department's name, not in the Minister's name. It was in the name of the Director-General. The reason I suspect that that submission wasn't lodged was that this government is not interested in good policy, it's not interested in robust debate, it's not interested in views being challenged, its irrigation agenda being challenged, It wants to tilt the playing field in favour of development, and we're seeing that with the muzzling of the department here and with the Minister's colleague, the Honourable Amy Adams, doing her best to gut the principles from the Resource Management Act and tilt that Act in favour of more development and away from the environment. So this government, Mr Speaker, is bailing on its responsibilities to the environment. What is also troubling is that the suppression of DOC's draft submission has undermined potentially public confidence in the whole Board of Inquiry process, because that process won't be robust. The Board won't have the information it needs. It will be hearing from a government agency in terms of the Ministry of Primary Industries.
I call the Honourable Member Claudette Hoiti. Tēnā